This video demonstrates how to create a rifled barrel using Blender 2.5. Alright, to start with, let's go ahead and delete the existing barrel. X, delete. Let's make sure that we're in perspective mode and we're looking at the front. Okay, I've already added an image here for a rifled barrel. I got this from firearmsid.com. The important things to note here are how many lands there are. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is important to note how many vertices we're going to need. We want to have a multiple of number of lands. Also to note, the land starts here, and as it twists through the barrel, it ends up right here. If you extend this line out up the barrel, you'll see that it rotated 90 degrees. Alright, so let's go ahead and add a circle. Let's rotate it 90 degrees in the X direction so we'll see it. Go ahead and scale it down to 0.5. Now I've already pre-selected this image here to fit within a 0.5 radius. Also to note, scaling I found works better when you're in edit mode as opposed to object mode. So in order to fit this in here, you would have to go to edit mode, and just don't want to make that part of the lesson. But when you do add modifiers, in my experience, it's better to keep the scales at 1 in the object mode, therefore just resize things in the edit mode. Alright, let's go ahead and add 66 vertices, because 66 is a multiple of 6, and cylinders are normally better with, in my opinion, with 62 or more vertices. Okay, so let's go ahead and duplicate this now while we're still in object mode. So hit Shift D, hit enter. Let's go ahead and go into edit mode, so tab. Okay, now hit S for scale, and we're going to bring this into where the lands are supposed to start at. So S for scale, then hit Shift Y to lock it in the Y direction so it only scales in the X and Z direction, and type 0.95. Alright, now deselect everything. Now select the vertices around the lands. There'll be 3 vertices each land. 1, 2, 3. Oops. Got too many there. Alright, now hit E for extrude, enter, Shift Y, 0.95. I screwed that up. It's S for scale, Shift Y, 0.95, enter. Now remove these vertices in the middle of these lands. This is so that it'll minimize the confusion as you extrude all this out, and this way you'll have less vertices and faces that'll just be in your way. So remove those vertices. Tab out of here. Now we're going to add a screw modifier. Alright, for this it's better to go into perspective mode, so hit 5 and go in perspective mode. Oops, where to go? There it is. And the screw, this is going to determine what the length of the shaft is. For us, let's go ahead and put in a -4, and it'll put it 4 units backwards. Also the angle you can see over here, we probably want a negative number. You can see it rotate that way when it goes negative, so put -90 in there. And there you go. Alright. Now tab out of this. Now let's select this outer ring again. Select the outer ring and go into top view and go into edit mode, hit E for extrude, enter, and then just pull it up over here to 4. Let's go into camera view, hit the play button, And there you go. There's your rifle's barrel. Thanks for watching.
Hi, my name is Sebastian König and you are watching a short demo of the tracking workflow in Blender. So first of all, you go to the motion tracking layout. Next, you open up your footage and then prefetch it into the memory. Then control left click to place a marker and then you can track it forward. That should go very fast, so let's add another one and track that backwards. You can also use different motion models for more precise tracking, for example the affine motion model that will distort with your footage. You can scale markers with S and enable the display of the search area with Alt-S. So you can see how it deforms with your footage. So let's just add another one. Scale down the search area to make tracking a little bit faster and then track it backwards. When you've finished tracking a marker, you can lock it with Ctrl L, so to say to freeze it. And if you want to have a more automatic way of tracking, you can use the Detect Features button. That will automatically add a bunch of markers, which you can then also track forward. Now some of them will lose their track, so again let's freeze them with Ctrl L and then run the feature detection in the end once more and track those backwards. Then to inspect your tracks you can use the curve view in Blender and then also select and erase some of the bad tracks. That looks alright, so we can go ahead and solve that. Blender has a very powerful solver that can also estimate and refine your focal length and the lens distortion parameters. Solve the camera motion and you can see in the lens panel now you have these lens distortion parameters. Now to improve the situation, let's clean up some tracks that are too short or where the solve error is too high. Just erase those tracks and solve again. Solve error of 0.3 is very good, so we can choose 3 markers to establish a floor plane, then choose one for the origin and one for the x-axis. After that, let's choose 2 markers and set up a scale for our scene, and then set up the tracking scene. And this will set up everything for you: the camera constraint, a background plane and even some render layers. You can also see that you have render undistorted in the 3D viewport, which is calculated on the fly. So now we can use this to model our scene. So if you render that, you can see there's already a lamp and the render layer set up. You can check out the render layers in the 3D viewport. Change the materials and then import a model and render that. So without having to import or export anything, you can track your footage, place your 3D models and render and composite all in one application. And if you want to learn more about that, subscribe to cloud.blender.org and watch the first part of the new and updated course Track Match Blend. See you there! Hi, this is a demo of the intersect tool. This is a tool I recently worked on and committed yesterday for inclusion in 2.72. You can access it from the face, mesh faces intersect. And it's a little bit like the Boolean tool, but it's very stupid. It doesn't make any clever decisions about what to keep and what to throw away. That's up to you. So you'll need to be usually linked afterwards and need to do a few manual edits. Which might not be what you want, but if you're just in edit mode, generally it's a little bit of a hassle to go into object mode, add the mesh, make sure your mesh is all manifold and nice, and yeah, it's a bit of extra work. So, you know, if you're in edit mode and you just want to add sort of a sphere intersection to the side of the cube, you can just do that really quickly, like this. So. Alright. There is one example of something that you can do in with the intersect tool that you can't do with Boolean or the knife tool, and that's self-intersection. So I'll just make a loop that curls in on itself by getting a cube, scaling it up, loop cutting it, and bending it. Shift W for the bend tool. If I do it completely aligned, you'll get this overlapping geometry, which I don't know if it'll work quite well or not, but for whatever the case, I'd rather not have geometry like that, and instead, yeah, bend it, have a bit of overlap like this. All right, and add a subsurf to it because it looks a bit nicer. All right, I think that should be okay. Yeah, so if you wanted to 3D print this, you might want to get rid of all the internal geometry, or maybe even if you're optimizing for low polygon. There's a lot of internal stuff. So I'm just going to apply that. And if you run intersect again, it'll tell me there's no intersections found, but I need to go self-intersect. Now you can see that there's this rim where it's detected the intersections, and I can do link select, invert the selection, and pull out this area in the middle. All right. Now you can see that you've got this, even though it's the internal stuff's been removed, there's this seam here. I mean, this isn't new, but if you want to remove doubles, you can select non-manifold and then remove doubles there, so you don't risk removing doubles elsewhere. Though in this case, it wouldn't really be a problem. And yeah, now you've got this watertight mesh with all the internals removed. Just one last demo. Just show how this can be used for something a bit more like Boolean, but a bit more detailed than the previous two examples. So I'm going to get rid of the eyes, although it can do it can do not watertight meshes, as I was saying, non-manifold meshes. It won't correctly give two isolated regions of the mesh to select, which isn't really good for the example. So it will cut along the places where it can, but then it will leave some areas that aren't cut. So it looks a bit nicer just to do it like this. So just make a duplicate. Add some materials because otherwise you can't really see what's going on so well. And I'll cut these into each other. Okay, and as you can see, there's two separate parts of the mesh that it's managed to split out. You see, it wouldn't have done this properly if there'd have been the eyes. It couldn't have been cut out cleanly. And just remove these faces. So this is something you typically do with a Boolean operation, but it still kind of works here. Could clear the ear away too, I guess. Yeah. Alright, I hope you find the tool useful. Yep, that's all.
Periodically, particularly when I'm trying to build a complicated model, it's useful to be able to bring reference images directly into Blender as a background that I can use to guide my model construction. For example, if I want to build a penguin, I have a front and side view of my penguin here. I would like to put them on into my 3D viewport as reference images. To do this in Blender, I am going to need to see my properties toolbar, which is under the view menu for the 3D viewport. You'll note that the keyboard shortcut is N. And if I look at this, down at the bottom, there's a background images checkbox. I'm going to enable that. I'm going to add in an image. I'm going to open up my penguin reference images. I'm going to put in my front view, and I can't see it. Oh, that's frustrating. The reason I can't see it is because I am not looking at this from an axial view, and I am not looking at this from an orthographic view. So under view, I need to choose one of the axes, left, right, back, front, bottom, top, and I need to switch from perspective to orthographic view. And now I can see my penguin from the front, in the left or right. I can see him from the front, from the top. This is a little bit more than I want. I just want to see him from the front, in the front. So here on my image setup, I'm going to change it to see him only from the front view. And I'm going to try and get my penguin more or less centered on the origin here. And then I'm going to add in a side view of my penguin here. So I'm going to add another image to the background here. I'm going to open up, again, my penguin reference images, the side view. And I see that it comes in a lot smaller, and that bugs me a little bit. I'm a little worried that as I switch between front and side view, I'm going to have some trouble building this. You'll see that they overlap. They overlap because I have not set my side view image to be viewable only from the right. So now when I look at front, I see the front. From the right, I see the right. I know they're out of scale. I want to do the same thing that I did with the front image, with the right image. I want to center it, and I want it to the same scale. Handily, I'm just going to use the default cube here to mark out the top and bottom of my penguin. So top of the head to the tail is going to be marked out by the height of this cube right there. More or less as close as I can get it. Close enough for government work right there. So if I switch over to the right view now, I see that is much taller than my current penguin. So I can actually adjust his scale. I'm going to build him up a little bit here. That's pretty close. It looks like I've got him a little bit big. He's going to need to move up the y-axis a little bit. He's going to need to move over on the y-axis a whole bunch here. And I'm just clicking, clicking, clicking. I could have clicked and dragged a little bit. I want to be careful because I can get carried away with that. What I'm looking for here is to get this model, this background image, lined up with the top and bottom of the penguin. So now when I look at this from the front and from the back, from the side, I see the same penguin, and I can begin my modeling process.